Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Digital Adoption Show, where we host startup minds from L&D, HR, and tech to explore what's next in the future of work in technology. I'm your host, Sanskriti, Digital Adoption Strategist at Whatfix, and today we are picking one of the hottest topics in the learning space, the death of traditional L&D, what 2025 holds for learning and development. To continue our discussions, we have a very special guest today, and I'm pleased to welcome Rita. Rita is a seasoned L&D leader with 2 decades of global experience. She specializes in designing digital learning ecosystems, implementing data-driven solutions, and aligning learning with business goals. Rita has worked across diverse industries, including nonprofit, finance, oil and gas, and has lived and worked in the Europe, Middle East, Africa, and beyond. She holds a Master of Education from the University of Toronto and several certifications, including Prosky Change Management. Rita, welcome to the show. I couldn't be more excited. I'm so happy to meet you.
I'm thoroughly excited to be here with you today as well. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to meet you as well. And Rita, before we dive in, why don't you tell our audience about your journey, how it all started, and where are you today? Our audience love hearing these stories firsthand, and we would love to gather some insights and understand your experience so far.
Okay. Your introduction was really warm and welcoming. So let me go back to a little bit to the beginning. My first job, I actually am a computer programmer by trade. I did it only a couple of years, but in the job, my first job, part of it was teaching employees how to access tools and technology and use it in their day-to-day job. And honestly, that was the fun or the most exciting to it in my job. And I did that for a few years. And then one day I woke up and I realized, oh, this is great, but I didn't want to be in one company for my entire career. I was much younger then. So I made the conscious decision to leave and I went to another company. Wouldn't you know it, a year and a half in, the company went bankrupt. And my circular friends, some were saying, this is great. You've got doors opening now to you. And then others just saying, geez, aren't you regretting leaving? And I thought I could look at it either way. And I decided to take the first approach. This is opening opportunities for me. It wasn't long, a couple of weeks in, and I submitted an application to a financial institution. And within hours, I got a call back for an interview. The interview was the next day. And I'm thinking, this is easy, isn't it? I went into the interview and it never happens. These kind of things only happen in the movies. But I was actually offered the job in the interview. And it was to help them with the computer-based training, because at that point they were introducing it into the financial institution. And because of my technical background, little did I know it wasn't for the training side. But when I went in there, I saw how they were training and I was completely blown away. It was so organized and methodical and professional, and thinking, wow, I thought I was a trainer and here I don't even compare to this group. So it was a 5 month contract, which ended up being 5+ years for me. And in that 5 years, I took advantage of this gift and I went back to school. I got my degree and so on. And then I honed my skills in the 5 areas of learning and development here: needs assessment, instructional design, facilitation, supporting transfer of knowledge, and evaluation. And once that 5 years was up, I then went on about 15 years of contracts. And I took jobs in all areas, which has really honed my skills in L&D holistically. And I think that's where I am today with what you've introduced me. It's allowed me to, I went across the globe, gaining experience, gaining local and international experience. And here I am today. Happy to be speaking with you.
Lovely. That is a wonderful introduction, I must say. And as you rightly mentioned, that if one door closes, the other opens up, and it has opened so many great avenues for you in the learning and development space. And we are so glad that we're speaking with you today. And I would love to hear anecdotes as well in our further conversations today as well, Rita. So to keep things fun, we have a quick rapid fire segment for you that we call the triple strike. Are you ready? Triple strike, pun intended.
Yeah, interesting. I've never done this before, so let's do it.
So, number one, if you could trade jobs with anyone in the world for a day, who would it be and why?
I was thinking about this question and wanted to go back and find somebody that there's so many great people in our history. And actually, I wear a pendant from Greece with Alexander the Great. And I thought about him and I said, because he was known for military leadership, and a lot of military schools here in Canada and US use his methodology in teaching. But then I thought, I'm not a military person. So let me go with somebody that I can relate with in this century. And I picked Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, the philanthropy. I'm curious to know what a day in the life of Warren is like. And I would love to see how he makes decisions, who his circle of intellectual friends are, and what keeps him going, because he's working his 90s and it's so inspiring to know what he's doing. So he would be the person I would like to trade jobs for a day.
Definitely. I think that's a very good answer because philanthropy is something that requires a lot of connections and it requires a lot of faith and trust in the things that you're doing in for the community, for the people that you're
Yeah.
serving. So I would also like to venture into that one day if I have a chance. Moving on, let's say if you could travel back to time to witness any historical event, which one would and why?
Yeah. It's a great question, but it makes you pause for a moment because you live your life and you experience events unfolding. I'm going to go with the after World War II and I guess, the formation of the United Nations. It was formed so that we wouldn't have another war. And I think the premise of it is so inspiring for me, anyways. And what I really like about it too, it also instilled in us our humanitarian efforts and reducing poverty on a global scale, and also the environment, which we're very much into it with today. And it keeps us, honest about upholding international law. And I like the whole premise of it. And because to me, there's a direct link to it when it comes to learning and development. We talk about universal rights and freedom and all the things that we enjoy from a democratic society. So I really like the concept of it. And I'm going to go with the UN, the formation of the UN.
Perfect. Even when the UN formed, there were so many rights that came into play and right to freedom, everything that we have today is because of the entity that formed years and years ago. Lovely to share that as well. And lastly, Rita, if you could be a trainer to any famous celebrity, live or dead, who would it be and what kind of training will you give them? Apart from the learn in teaching.
Yeah. This was a no-brainer. This is absolutely a no-brainer for me because if my friends and family know me, they'll automatically Bob Marley. Tell me you know Marley. I'm like, a little bit, okay. And I would teach him about self-care and wellness because Bob died. I speak like I know him and don't know him. He died at 36, very young, and he was diagnosed with cancer, a rare form of skin cancer. But it was 4 years I was diagnosed, and I feel like if he had this in his heart, self-care and wellness, we could have probably, it could have been, his death could have been prevented. His life could have been prolonged and quite possibly still be with us today. There would be Bob Marley and giving him a course on self-care and wellness. Why not?
Definitely a regime that everybody is following, and self care is something that one should include in their day to day activities, like it's a part of the day and part of their being. But Rita, lovely to hear these answers from you. Give me a little bit of insight as to your personality. And now, moving on, we would like to discuss the other questions that we would want to do this podcast about. When we talk about the death of traditional learning and development, what elements of traditional learning and development you believe that are no longer relevant? Or when you think these methods are failing in today's world or would no longer be obsolete?
Mhm. Hands down, the very first one we all know this because it's been a hot topic and coming out of the pandemic. It's the one size fits all training. That's the first one. And the second one is having fully in classroom training, 100% in classroom training. Let me explain then a little bit more. When we talk about the one size fits all, back in the day, this is what it was like for us. We would put out a training and we would expect everyone to take time out of their jobs and come into the training, whether it's a day, half day, 1 week, 2 weeks. I know the job I mentioned in my intro, that training, the induction training was 8 weeks. Can you imagine the duration of that face to face? So that kind of training is absolutely gone. We need to now focus on learner experience because that's what they're asking for. They want customization. And I believe organizations need to offer flexibility and choices for them so that we can meet their needs. And because if we're not meeting their need, they will go elsewhere to find it. And it's like the fully in-person training, that's also being phased out. And if not, it's probably phased out with a lot of companies. This format was absolutely great when we were working, or the pace was much slower than what it is today, because you wake up and it's, oh, okay, this is no longer necessary. I need to move on to this. But when we were in a much slower pace, mostly pre-pandemic, and then employees were in the offices more or less 99% of the times. We had them there. We could access them. And the labor market wasn't so competitive. It's now with AI and things that are coming into the workplace and the fold, we're challenged to find the right skill set and the right talent to come into place. So these are the two areas I feel are phasing out or changing a bit. When it comes to fully in class or in person-to-person training, it's being replaced by new modalities like AI-driven learning, virtual reality, which has been around for a long time, but very costly. So maybe we'll see a dip in prices now, so we can afford to have more of it. And mobile learning. Tell me a person who does not have a smartphone and who doesn't access everything on their smartphone, right down to personal things like banking, but will still maintain modalities like microlearning, gamification, and social learning. That's where I see things. Those two areas are gone. They're a thing of the past for us.
Definitely, I second that. In fact, as you mentioned, that AI and virtual reality, everything is coming into play. And today, in today's world, there's nobody without a smartphone. So everything is accessible via a click. And one-on-one trainings or these personal trainings are becoming a little bit of obsolete because nobody has the time to spend that amount of time or that amount of dedication to learn a particular topic or spend 8 weeks learning that. Definitely. And in fact, that brings me to my next question because as we know that AI is the hot topic and we just discussed about, it's making a significant impact in learning and the way it will shape L&D in 2025 and the years to come. What makes it more effective than traditional and one-size-fits-all approaches? I know that we touched upon how it's pretty accessible, but other than that, what do you think how AI could impact the L&D space?
This is really an interesting question, because let me start with some concerns I have, and then I'll flip to come back to the question. From my experience, and I've been working quite a long time now, and predominantly with the exception of maybe 2.5 years outside of the L&D work. But I have found from my experience, we absolutely don't have great relationships with an entire business. We have relationships with departments and functions and certain leaders and stakeholders, but when it comes as a company as a whole, no, it doesn't exist. When you think about it, when companies are hit hard times and they have to cut back, we are the first to go. And in my career, because I've been working about 25 years, I've been downsized 5 times, which is why I don't look at a job whether it's full-time or contract. But here's my AI concern, right? We are not very good at adopting it as an industry or learning and development. And I really believe we should start using it, even if it's just to be curious about it, find out what it can do or not. And likely, more than likely, a lot of organizations have a lot of tools or have what tools of AI. We just need to go out there and find out what's out there and can we use it and can we apply it in our L&D role. But the second concern, and last week we had this conversation and I want to share it with you today. We had the concern is learning and development is not just instructional design. It's not just facilitation. It's not just these. It's the whole 5 areas we talked about earlier. And if you don't understand the depth and the breadth of L&D, or if you don't know adult learning principles or design methodologies or evaluation models, I could go on and on because all these are part of L&D. It's not going to serve you with AI, because when you prompt engineer something into AI and it comes back to you, you have to be able to critique it, analyze it, and make sure that aligns with learning and development as a vocation. Now, businesses are probably going to say, because if we can't do this, we can't course correct it, businesses are going to come back and say, why do I need L&D if AI can do this? It's gaining efficiency in content development, just about everything you're doing. And this is where we need to flip the card and let them know that it's a tool to be used in conjunction, but we are the mastermind of L&D, not AI. and it's not there yet. There's some lessons we discussed last week, and I'm going to share that with you. It's just three. Don't worry. So the first, you want to when you're using AI, you want to start with a real life problem. What exactly are we trying to solve? Is it retention of employees or productivity? What exactly do we want to solve? And use that as a starting point. The second thing is know what good learning looks like. You have to understand all the methodologies because we don't design learning because it's a nice thing to do. We design it with structure, with methods, with models, with all of that metric, everything there. So know what good learning looks like and know how to people learn and how they are engaged and keep that going. And the third aspect is use it for augmentation, not for automation, because it's not here to replace us. It's good for tasks, but it's not good for job. And the two really need to work together for it to work. With that, you need some people in L&D to understand AI or to start understanding it and maximizing it in the role.
Very rightly said. In fact, anything that works in conjunction is something that is beneficial in the longer run. And as you mentioned, that L&D would require some sort of artificial intelligence and vice versa, so that have a holistic package moving forward for the generations to come.
But AI can be used for everything, course plan, learning activities, quizzes, storyboarding, everything that you are doing right now. And it speeds up the process because you drop it in, within minutes it comes back. But one of the things I saw last week was a company actually created a sandbox to teach people skills, new skills. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And the last thing with AI, because it's so fast and it's so incredibly future forward, use it for data manipulation. Look at it from what trends are we seeing with our people? What observations are we making? Are we tracking and analyzing KPIs? Use it for those kind of things. And that's what we should be looking at it, looking to the use of it for L&D.
Definitely. In fact, that will only and only enhance the processes that have been going on. And since we were talking about unified solutions and how to manage everything properly, so of late we've seen a push towards unified learning platforms that promises integration. And these are a combination of learning, performance monitoring, and consulting. But do you think that these consolidated solutions would lead to better learning in the future or would lead to better learning outcomes? Or are we simply using these tools in our day to day lives without addressing the deeper learning needs or deeper learning concerns?
It's a really good question. And I think when it comes to platforms, I'm going to refer to it in a Likert scale where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you select. So if you're using platforms for engagement metrics, things like how many people attended or completed the courses or viewed it but didn't or started didn't complete. If you're using it for that, no, not going to serve the purpose. If you're using it for efficiency focus, are we saving time and money with this training? It's still not enough. If you're using it for perceived value, we've done training, so we've done our jobs, and this is great. That's not going to work either. So what we need to do is move away from those basics and shift into like performance. What is the time frame to get people to competency post training using platforms, of course? And what is the speed to adoption once they've done training? What is the speed that they're actually applying those learning and new skills and attitudes and behaviors back on the job? What is the speed to adoption? The KPIs, are we measuring it and things like that? We need to understand the data from the platforms to see if we're increasing KPIs, ability, whether it's lateral or upwards. We want to see if people are staying because retention is becoming a huge issue for everyone. We want to figure out, are we really addressing those future needs for deeper learning? So I think the platform can serve the needs, but we have to drive it then. We have to go from that basic simple and move to bringing it to the business goals and addressing those aspects. Otherwise, it's not going to serve the purpose.
Understood. Definitely. With that question, we move on to L&D practices and skills that are important for people, given your vast experience, almost 25 years. Just wanted to understand from you, what skills do you think would be critical for future workforce, and how should L&D depart to cultivate those skills by 2025 and beyond the years?
With skills, we're going to put it into 3 buckets. The first one is clearly we've got digital and technical skills. That's where we are right now. Everything is in that frame. And the second one is the human, or some people refer to it as power skills. This is what we used to call soft skills before, but then everyone would say, what's soft about it? They're very difficult skills, critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving. Those are not soft skills. Those are hard to do, creativity. And the last category is the other category. So what we place into this bucket is things like growth mindset, as opposed to a fixed mindset. Being curious, because if you're curious, you want to learn, you want to figure things out. That's the whole point. And curiosity ultimately sometimes leads to innovation as well. We also want generational shift skills in that arena, because we are working now with, I can say in Canada, at least 5, 6 generations in the workplace, from traditionalists to baby boomer to now we have the alpha gen, which is, I'm like, I learned something every day type of thing. So that is key. And then leadership, right? L&D in a soft way is leadership, because we're seeking out to improve people and ultimately impacting the business, because we have training to drive business. One of the things with learning and development, we can't rely on the skills of the past. Because when we look at trends coming up for 2025, it's still going to be personalized learning, adaptive learning. It's still going to be that. And that's been around for a while. I know my last company, we were using it for a couple of years, but it's now becoming more and more prominent. We also want skills in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. But inclusion is key, because if somebody is not included, because now we have to be respectful and mindful of people's beliefs and what they likes and dislikes and religion, and so much comes into the fold, because work is like an extension of your life. And then data, we can't leave data out. Then the human skills for L&D, we need to develop those skills and we need to utilize them in everything we do. And lastly, it's the business impact, like what's driving the organizational goals. We have to understand that. And once we can develop these skills, I think it will help move us from a tactical place to a strategic place. I feel like L&D is still not strategically positioned. This is why we still get cut, or we still are considered a nice to have. But in reality, we are necessary. And I believe for us to stay relevant, L&D in 2025, we need to cultivate these skills, especially looking at the trends. And that's what's going to help us promote a learning mindset.
For sure. In fact, these insights would be really helpful for the upcoming L&D leaders who are trying to make their path into this particular domain. And it would be very insightful for them as well to learn what kind of skills are absolutely necessary to have or to include in their learning goals when they're trying to reach out to these particular mindset. Now, Rita, since we talked about new technologies, we talked about incoming, etc. As new technologies are emerging, the L&D space is also rapidly evolving, and there's an ongoing need to address the skill gaps in the workforce. How do you see tools like digital adoption platforms, simulation softwares, etc., and other emerging technology helping to close these gaps and improve employee development?
I want to say, like, a few years ago, I actually saw demos, not one, not two, but demos. Whatfix's digital freedom. I did, and I was intrigued by it, and I actually reached out because it was like, this is incredible. It's my job, and I can have step-by-step instructions to complete my task without leaving my job. And my fingertips, 1 or 2 clicks, and it was like fascinating. But it really mirrors, or what we talk about in the flow of work and for designing for the moment of need. I think those were the two features that I absolutely love. But then I learned it could also be a digital ROI. Can help calculate that digital ROI. And I was like, oh my goodness, can it get any sweeter? It's the perfect tool. Unfortunately, I am not up on that platform, but simulations I've used, and I totally love it. I think these are the representation of true digitalization and true future of work strategies and implementations. I think by analyzing user adoption, and simulations can help close employee gaps, because If I'm in my job and I'm looking for something to do and I can't remember how to do it and it's not there, the method or the steps and so on, that is a gap. So we can easily plug that gap. And I can see that happening very easy. And you push it out and it really goes out to everyone in the organization. I also think it helps. This is the one tool that can truly align training with business objectives. I honestly believe that. And the last thing is it will give us unbiased data for decision making. Data is not going to lie. So we can remove the human element and just look at the data and say, okay, this is what we need to do, or this is what we should stop doing. Yeah.
Definitely. In fact, the goal with our digital adoption platform is to replace the traditional old training methods and to help the users get onboarded quicker and faster on the applications and help them become independent on the application so that they don't have to necessarily navigate across different external sources. And with virtual platforms coming in, with simulation platforms coming in, we do have a new product called Mirror, where we replicate the original instance of the application so that the users can have hands-on experience on the simulation platform before they actually venture into the real life instance, so that it minimizes the mistakes and it minimizes the effort done and get on board onto the platform.
Well, I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see it because that is the kind of tool we need.
Definitely, it's a new age technology, and everybody is running towards virtual reality and simulation.
You? It's very nice.
Lovely. Lovely. And since we have been talking about ROI this entire time and how important it is to actually measure the benefits or the impact of any new solution or any new strategies that we are implementing or deploying. With N&D, the challenge often lies in measuring the ROI. That with the advancements coming in the N&D tools by 2025 or years beyond, it will finally show a measurable business impact, or ROI will still be a distant goal.
I'm going to share something with you and kind of get to the question. Last week, I mentioned I was in Kuwait speaking at a conference, and one of the presenters was talking specifically about ROI, and he was in with them with Slido too. And he asked the question towards the end, are you ready for ROI? And more than 70% said no. And then the next follow-up question was why? And they said, it's too much time. But you should mention about the digital adoption platform. I think that's what they need. Something like that. So it's not as lengthy as we think it was. I think it is. Because I know back in the day, we were never asked to calculate return on investment. It was just not a thing for L&D. And which is why we are so fearful of data and using and working with data. So it is necessary because now executives need to see this information because they need to understand why we are training and what are the benefits and what are the impact. So we have to get comfortable with data. We have to, and that's nice tools like the digital adoption platform, like where it automatically does it, or where it can help you like more than 70, 90% of the job. But some tips for L&D staff that's now trying to work with learning and development. Really, organizations, it's a way of measuring the organization's investment by comparing the returns to its cost. Most of us use Kirkpatrick 4 levels of evaluation, the reaction, the learning, the application, and the impact. And Jack Phillips developed a model which builds on Kirkpatrick, and it's on a 5th level, calculating the return on investment. And he has simplified the formula. You take the net benefits and you subtract the cost and then you multiply by 100. So it sounds easy in principle, but yes, it could be daunting when you start, but it's not. So the thing is, capture the data, analyze the data, then you're going to convert the data to money. Okay, it's all numbers in business then. So you capture the data cost and you calculate the return on investment. Doesn't sound too complicated, does it? And if you've the DAPs and AI helping you, like, is it not easy here to do?
Number game has to be really strong while talking about ROI. And that brings me to the last question of today's discussion. What tips would you have for L&D teams to stay relevant and avoid becoming outdated?
Say that we have to develop a growth mindset because a lot of us do one thing, whether it's instructional design, whether it's facilitation. I would like us to become more rounded, especially with AI. I think we need to embrace AI because it's going to revolutionize our industry. We can use it to develop future forward leadership, employees, and ourselves. We have to include ourselves in that mix. We too need development or need to learn new skills or need to grow in our role. AI is the digital component and we are the people component. And I think that's what's gauging the transformation side. But those are the tips I think I'll share with you, right? Today, as we are next January could be different.
The amalgamation has to be perfect between the AI technology and human, and that's what makes it a very holistic approach as well. Rita, this has been a fantastic discussion. Before we wrap up, do you have any parting thoughts or final piece of advice for our listeners who are looking to plan an effective L&D strategy for 2025?
I'll come back to, we've heard of growth mindset, digital mindset, learning mindset, performance mindset, technology mindset. Now, let's develop a disruptive mindset because these are going to be moving very quickly and changing even more. So, would be my final thoughts.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. It has been a wonderful discussion. We got to learn so much about different L&D strategies and how people could implement it in their plans. And to all our listeners, stay tuned for more episodes like this one, where we dive into the latest trends in L&D, HR, and technology with thought leaders like Rita. You can catch us on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Sanskriti, signing off. See you next time.